All right. Okay, Facebook is live and Instagram is live. What's up, y'all? It is the Friday edition of From Unmothered to Empowered. I'm onjeinikab, the unmothered coach. I'm very happy to be here with you guys today. It is a gorgeous Friday. We have some uncommonly warm weather going on here in the DMV and the DC, Maryland, Virginia Metro, and so we're just gonna roll with it. So I'm happy to see you guys today. Today we're going to talk about toxic mothers and toxic workplaces. What's the connection? Hello to everyone joining, and what's up if you're catching the replay. So I'm jumping in. Don't want to waste time today. If you are new here, you have probably not seen this book, but here it is. This book is called Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. And I'm the author of the book. I wrote the book to help women who had difficult relationships with their mothers and who lost their mothers, help them overcome emotional trauma, find their voice, and reclaim their power so they can have the lives they deserve. And so if that's you, this book was written just for you. It has the 9 steps to healing, where I take you through acceptance, grief, forgiveness, and renewal. And that is basically how you take back your life. But today, we're going to talk about toxic mothers and toxic workplaces and the connection. This is a talk that I've done a couple of times. I feel like it is needed again. One, I'm in interview mode, interviewing for new roles. And so whenever I get kind of like career minded, this comes up for me, and not, in a negative way, but because I want to spread positivity about how to change the situation if you find yourself in a toxic workplace. And so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is because of our mental health and because of some of the things that are going on right now and how people are being treated. I think it's always a good time to address that, but I want to talk specifically to those of us that are unmothered about the connection, because sometimes it can keep you in a place, in a workplace, when it's not good for you and when you don't need to be there. Okay, so let's jump in. You know the drill. If you're unmothered and you have experienced a toxic mother or a mother that's very self-centered, into herself, not very empathetic, not understanding to your needs, then you know how it feels when you aren't supported, when you aren't taken care of. And so that same thing can happen in a workplace where you can be being mistreated. Now, the connection is pretty obvious, but sometimes for those of us that are unmothered, we don't notice it. And so what happens is we begin to sometimes even, we're more prone to finding these toxic work environments. We're more prone to falling into them. Sometimes it's because of our nature, how we are, like whether you're introverted or quiet or whatever. Sometimes it's your nature, but sometimes they fly under the radar because you're so used to the treatment that you grew up with. And so it might take you a while sometimes to be like, okay, this, I know people have their different personalities, but this doesn't seem right. But for us, because we are so conditioned to how our mothers would act up and how they would treat us, we have a lot of ability to stick it out. We're tough. We're mentally tough a lot of the time, or so we think. And I want to talk about that. But we're tough because we've experienced it. And what it really is that it's the trauma, and we're used to that happening. And so we've become conditioned, and we don't always recognize the red flags right away. And so if you've been in toxic work environments, then you know what I'm talking about. And for me, I've been in more than one. And so obviously, experience is a teacher. And so sometimes it takes going through that first toxic workplace or manager, whatever the case may be. And then you begin to understand, okay, I need to be paying attention the next time I interview or the next time I go looking for a job. I need to be aware. But when you haven't built that muscle up, sometimes it can sneak up on you, and it's, it can be simply because of the mother that you had. It can be simply because of, the way that you grew up. And if you're used to drama, if you have a higher threshold for people acting crazy and for people talking outside their neck or saying any kind of thing to you, and it's not that you don't know how to snap back and take care of yourself. The problem is that you will tolerate it. You will tolerate it. You will go into that job day after day. You will, get your blood pressure up, arguing with the manager sometimes. You will, have experienced, like mental health things that are weighing on you. Sometimes you even, have to seek additional help. Like for me, I had to go into therapy with one of the workplaces I was in. I had to go back into therapy to get help, to manage it, because I wasn't able to walk away from the job right then, like just to drop it. And so I want to talk about these things and unpack them, because it is an unsafe decision just to tell yourself that you can stick it out and that you can take it. And when you realize that there is a connection and you're sort of like, oh, and the light bulb comes on and you understand that, it might be connected to how your mother treated you, or you might be allowing this because you think that you can handle it and you know how to take care of yourself and you've been there. When that happens and the light bulb comes on, you still need to think about what you need going forward. You still need to think about, if I had an opportunity to change things with my mother, wouldn't I? So why wouldn't I change things in this workplace if I have an opportunity to do so? And so I'm going to get into, how to recognize a toxic environment and some things that you can do and when to leave, because I think that's important. There is a lot going on right now, and you've probably seen, in the media and on the news, how sometimes a toxic workplace, the environment or the manager can do harm to you, and sometimes it's irreparable harm. And I don't want that to happen to you. And so because I know we have the tendency to attract these kinds of people in our lives, or even to attract these types of environments, I want to speak to you about how to be aware and how to protect yourself moving forward. So, and I'm not saying that you're the cause of being in a toxic environment, or you're the cause of any kind of mistreatment. So let's make that clear. I'm not trying to do any victim shaming here and say, this is something that you are allowing to happen. I just think that sometimes we are unaware, and the more we learn and the more we arm ourselves with knowledge, the better we can do. So that's what this is about. I come in peace and love, but make no mistake about it, I do want to see some changes. And having been there myself, it is sometimes difficult to get out, but it's absolutely necessary to make a change if you find yourself in a toxic environment and you also notice the connection to, having a toxic or narcissistic mother. All right. So how can you recognize a potentially toxic workplace? That is going to depend on your individual definition, because it's going to be different, just depending on you and your preferences and the things that you like, the ways, that you like to communicate with people, the way you like to interact, how you, do your work, all those types of things. And so what do I mean? Like for some people, a toxic work environment can be like a boss that yells. Or it can be a place where all the employees are overworked and burnt out. It can be an environment where the workers themselves are critical with each other. Like they're negative and they're tearing one another down. There is no teamwork. There's a lot of selfish activity, or people are backstabbing, their coworkers, and you just don't find unity in that place. Sometimes there's sabotage, and competition can be like at an all-time high. People are vying for position. They want to be the best employee, and they'll do anything to get that, to get that title. And so that can be for you a toxic workplace. And sometimes it's not the team, the rest of the team. Sometimes it's just the manager, that how they speak to you or how they act, or when assessment time rolls around, how there are all these issues that you never knew anything about, and they're constantly tearing you down. And so you have to be aware of what is toxic for you. What is a bad work environment for you? What does not feel good to you? What keeps you from moving forward? What dampens your spirit when you get there? And I'm not talking about work in general, because I know going to a job can do that sometimes. But think on a deeper level, if it's really affecting you and making you down, or you're struggling through the day because of the interactions that you're having. You have to address it, at an individual level and decide what is toxic to me. Okay? So once you do that, you need to make some decisions. And so that's when we start talking about leaving. Leaving is always an option. It's an option because you have to look at it like taking care of yourself and protecting yourself. You are no good to anybody if you're broken down, if you're burnt out, if you're mentally exhausted, if people have told you all these negative things and you don't know how to use all the good skills and gifts that God gave you because someone else told you that you can't. So you're no good to anyone. So there's no point in staying in these types of environments. And so when to leave, it can be tricky. Now, I just said, in my case, we all have reasons that we stay in these environments. And once we realize and recognize where we are and that it's not good for us, we all have reasons. I believe for one of the last ones for me, it was, I like this job. I just got here. I am not ready to give up, is how I was saying it to myself. And, I wanted to fight for my role, because where the problem started, it wasn't, there were no red flags there. There was not a situation where I could have known ahead of time. And so when the problems began, it blindsided me, and I realized I was in a situation where I couldn't just easily quit because I needed my job. We have bills, we have to eat, we have responsibilities. And so that can sometimes stop you. But don't let it stop you from trying to leave. So if you have bills, most of us do. We're not able to just float ourselves for several months without work. And so begin looking, begin getting your eyes open. I don't care if it's been less than 6 months. They used to say, oh, you got to be in a job 6 months or a year because it looks bad on your resume. Screw all of that. Because what doesn't look good is your mental health going down, or you harming yourself because someone else is, after you, and you can't deal with what they're doing. And this is real life, And like I said, if you've been watching the news and you've seen in the media, this happens. Where people are committing self-harm because someone else at the job is attacking them. Some manager has power over them, and they are using it to destroy a person because they think it's fun, because they think it's just simple competition. They don't care. So we have to be on top of this and be aware. So know that leaving is always an option. It's just how you do it. Some cases you gotta quit cold turkey, and you have that support to do that. I have also been there, where my husband has been, okay, I got you. If you gotta walk away, you just gotta walk away. And so I've also been there, where I've done that, and then sometimes I've not been able to do that, but I've made an exit plan where I can get myself out. And so I want you to start thinking about things like that, like what can you do a bridge job? Can you move into something that will keep paying the bills? It might not be your ideal job, but it will get you out of that situation quickly. You may have to implement therapy or implement some kind of support system while you're still working, when you're unable to, quickly pivot out of that role. You might have to do that. And so for me, I put myself back in therapy to make sure I had someone that was advising me and giving me strategies, and also affirming me and reminding me of who I am, and telling me, okay, the things that are being said aren't true, and they aren't true. And here's how you respond, and here's how you react, and this is what you need to do. I pay for that, and that's what professionals, get paid to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, because sometimes we put a stigma on therapy, on when we feel like we need help, and there should be no stigma there. Get as much help as you need. Life is hard. There's no reason to try to do all this stuff alone and on your own. And don't be ashamed when you need to reach out, and when you need someone to help you get you out of a toxic environment. because you can control other people. So it's not like you picked this place or chose this place on purpose. So just let yourself say, okay, this was a mistake, or this is not the place for me. I regret it and I need to make some changes. It's okay. It's okay. So get the help that you need. Now, another red flag for when it's time to leave. When the manager, when the people around you are talking about performance improvement plans, also known as PIPs, they want to put you on a performance improvement plan, or they're threatening to fire you. This has happened to me, with different ways they would say it. I'm in the meeting and they're threatening to fire me, and there's no real substance behind that. So when you see these types of things happening, the writing is on the wall, and that they're trying to basically get rid of you, or trying to tear you down, or try to ruin your reputation. There's all kinds of things that toxic people do, and they are only thinking of themselves. So please don't underestimate them. Please don't underestimate the lengths they will go to just to see you fall. And I don't know what it is and why it's like that. But look, if your own mother can be toxic, how you gonna trust the people at work? People are just people. So please don't underestimate them. So when you see the writing on the wall, and when you get those red flags, and when you get those subtle threats or outright threats about what they're going to do to you, understand that you might not want to take that L, and you might not want to have being fired on your record, because that's something that other employers going forward, like when you look for other jobs, they will ask you about that if you've been fired from a place. And so you don't necessarily want to have to explain that. And so that's a good time to get out. That is a good time to leave. If you can find a way out, or you can move into something else, or sometimes even if you can't. Another red flag is if you've gone to HR. If you have gone higher, like to that manager's manager, or whoever the person is, you've gone higher and nothing's happened. And if you've escalated all the way to the HR level and nothing's happened, you can file a complaint. And if you do that and the company investigates and don't find anything wrong, and they're telling you, oh, the place is fine, or they're telling you it's out of our hands, you're on your own. You need to hightail it out of the situation. It is not worth your health, your mental health. It is not worth fighting for that role, because they've shown you that you don't have any support. And so in those cases, yes, you can get state and federal legislation. There are agencies that you can get involved. Is what I should say. You can get state agencies involved that can help you file a complaint against the whole establishment, where it wouldn't just be the manager. So if they don't support you, there are levels. But you need to know what you're willing to do to protect yourself. You need to know, do you have that time, that money, that mental capacity to fight with them, about this job, or about how they treated you. And so I'm not telling you not to file a complaint and not to take it higher. I'm just making you aware of what the options are if they don't handle things at the job. You can go outside of it, and there are state and federal agencies that can assist you with what you need to do. But understand that it will take time, and in some cases it might take money if you end up going, having a lawsuit or whatever. So this is what a toxic environment can lead you to, when you just kind of, accept it, or when you find yourself in there and don't have an exit plan. And so that's, an extreme case going all the way there. It is not always that involved, but you never know. And so I am here for you, letting you know that this kind of behavior is not okay. And just because you might have grown up with it doesn't mean there's any reason to accept it now. And so what we're going to do is be aware, and we're going to be knowledgeable about how to be our own advocates and how to take care of ourselves, because we didn't have that growing up. And so the risk is that we could continue to see ourselves as alone, and that's not the case. That's not the case. I'm with you, and so I want to bring this information to you. Now, the third thing I have for you is, how do you work on yourself? So I want to talk about self a little bit. You know now how to recognize a toxic environment. And if you don't, ask yourself certain questions and pay attention to how you feel, so that you can begin to understand what's a good environment for you. What's a good, what are good working relationships? What do they look like? You need to know when to leave. Know what the red flags look like. Even if it's less than 6 months, If you're a manager or people around you, they're talking about putting you on a performance improvement plan, talking about firing you. Understand if your health is going down that you might need a therapist. So look at the red flags and know when to leave. Begin to build your exit plan so that you can get out before you get hurt and before your career is hurt. And then third, self. So when we look at self, sometimes you're in a toxic environment and things are being done to you, and it is because you don't have boundaries in place. And so one of the things you can do to work on self, like for the next job that you have, is make sure you know what your boundaries are. If it's burnout and that's what's causing the workplace to be toxic and everybody is just stressed out and overworked, then know that you're not going to work after, your 8 hours are put in. Have a stopping time. Know that you're not going to take work home and you're not going to do extra work on the weekends or whatever. They cannot contact you, at your personal email and things like that. And so put your boundaries in place so that you know what is good for you health-wise. Be assertive. And so this is where sometimes you have to practice speaking to other people and how you're going to address them and how you're going to have these meetings that you need to have in order to advocate for yourself when you're telling them this behavior is unacceptable. I will not be spoken to this way. Or when you have to escalate it, and you have to take it to HR. You need to be able to stand up for yourself. And so if that means practicing in the mirror, if that means finding some YouTube videos and watching them where people can help you walk through those steps, or taking a course, whatever it is, on being more assertive, learn how to stand up for yourself. And what if in a kind of flipped manner, you're the cause? What if the workplace is toxic because you are there causing harm and you really didn't know it, but now suddenly you begin to realize that somehow it's you. You're adding to, what's going on, or you are terrorizing the people there because you picked up these traits growing up and didn't really realize how they're playing out now. What if it's you? If you are the cause of the toxic place, or you're the toxic leader or manager, address it. You can change your own behavior. And so you can get help, in understanding how to talk to people. Like I said again, there are classes. There's all kinds of techniques and strategies you can use to work on yourself. And you can apologize if there are people that you have, said the wrong things to, but somehow they're still working with you or still on your team. And you can be intentional about changing your behavior. And so going forward, you can change your behavior. And I had a manager that did that wanted to do better. He didn't stick to it, but, he certainly could apologize and say, this is not how this should have gone. But if that person is you and you apologize, change your behavior, because that's way more powerful. And so you just have to begin to work on that. And practice the golden rule. I think above all, practice the golden rule. Treat people how you want to be treated. Just do the same for them. Try to come from a good place first, thinking that you're gonna give what's a good part of you, and in good faith, and that's what you're expecting back. And so that's how you can begin to make those changes, because you don't want to be your mama at work. You don't want to be acting like how she acted, and you're there terrorizing the people at work. And so this is a way that you can be aware, address your own ish, and work on it. Okay? And so those are the tips that I have for you today, talking about toxic mothers and toxic workplaces and their connection. I am so serious about this, and I'm probably going to do a post on LinkedIn about when you're ready to move from, you've been in a toxic workplace and you're going to another job, and how to walk into that so that you have a clear head. And so it is a topic that I feel passionate about. I have survived some environments, and I have gone from there to very good environments, and it is a whole and complete difference. And I wish that growing up, we had that opportunity for our moms to treat us right. And I wish that, at some point she could have gotten her behavior together and things were different, and we didn't have to go through the trauma, experience this and feel like this, and then have people literally coming after us. I wish that wasn't the case. but we can't change the past. And so all I can do is address where you are right now and help you to move forward. And I want you to move forward and be empowered. And so that is my whole purpose here to help you heal, here to help you get the life you deserve, okay? All right, so if you have questions for me concerning this talk or on this topic, please just drop them, below, or you can also DM me. Happy to take your questions, happy to keep talking about it. I do want to remind you my one-to-one coaching program is open. So if you require some hand-holding or you think that would help you to get on the healing journey, then just visit the link in my bio. That's available. Oh, and next week I'm doing a 3-day workshop on healing. And so I'm going to focus on grief management. So if you are unmothered and you lost your mother, you didn't have a good relationship, I'm going to be specifically focused on the grief that comes along with that, and whatever you're experiencing. So I'm going to come into a Facebook group, private Facebook group I've set up, where you can join, and we'll have content and questions in there to help you work through the layers, because it's a very layered thing when you're going through grief. There are all kinds of parts to grief, and so want to be able to discuss it, unpack it, and then be able to answer any questions. So I'll be coming into the Facebook group at 8 p.m. on Tuesday. It's going to be 8:30 on Wednesday, and then 8 p.m. on Thursday. So I'll be coming into the group live to do Q&A and some group coaching. And so I'm just hoping that being able to be in a small environment like that and work together will help you move through things in a way that jumpstarts your healing. So that's what I'm looking to do. And so if you want to join me, that workshop is $27. You can go to the link in my bio, and I will see you next week. All right, so that's what I have for you today, guys. I have enjoyed it, and wishing you peace and lots of blessings. Bye.